Hi and welcome to this week's Wine Buff video. This week we're going to have a look at wine labels because it tends to be one of the things that comes up most and is one of the biggest asked questions in our wine courses. So I thought this week we'll have a look at French wine labels and hopefully I'll help you decipher what actually means anything and what is a load of rubbish. And maybe in the next few weeks we'll maybe then look at maybe a Spanish label and also an Italian label, just so whenever you're going into a shop you at least know basically whether it's going to be a reasonable wine or it's not a great wine. So without further ado, let's have a quick look at a good example. So we'll have a look at this one here. This is a very fancy label. As you can see, looking down, there's an awful lot of information on there, all gold embossed, so it looks very impressive and looks like a very expensive bottle of wine. But I'd quickly like to just go through from top to bottom just to let you know what actually means something and what doesn't. So at the very top you'll see Grand Vin de Bordeaux, and you'll see that in a lot of Bordeaux bottles of wine. First thing to note is that actually means very, very little. If we were to make a bottle of wine in Bordeaux, if anyone makes a bottle of wine in Bordeaux, they can call it Grand Vin de Bordeaux. So even though it says Great Wine of Bordeaux, it just kind of means it originated in Bordeaux, so don't be taken in by it. Next bit we'll see, it actually does mean something reasonable, and something to look out for is the mis en bouteille au château, and that basically just means put in the bottle in the chateau or bottled at the vineyard. This is something to look out for, and if you see this in a bottle, it does guarantee a bit of quality. It basically means that it's not sent off to a cooperative to be blended. It's actually all the grapes and the wine or whatever that's made in the vineyard is actually bottled at the vineyard, and shows that they're so proud of what they want, they don't want it to be sent elsewhere to be bottled. So that's something to look out for, and it's a positive thing to look for in a wine. Next thing we just see when we zoom down is the crest. This is just I suppose the brand of this particular wine, which is Chateau Labouré, and we'll come on to that in a minute. It's kind of an identifying label, I suppose, as such. Next two things are actually completely irrelevant. There's one of them there, and there's another one there. And basically these are medals that they've won in competitions. Now usually, and Tesco's and all the supermarkets are big into this, is every time they get a particular medal, they're plastered all over the bottle, whether the manufacturer puts them on or not, they might be stuck on. The thing about it is, and I'm guilty myself, is these things really don't mean very much, because a lot of them can be trade awarded, and also a lot of them are awarded by magazines. The trade ones, I'm sure a lot of these wineries belong to, so they'll obviously have a lot of influence as to who wins them. And secondly, if it's actually by the likes of a magazine, so the likes of I suppose Decanter or Wine Spectator, although they seem to be independent, these magazines are in business to sell advertising space, and it does question their impartiality when it comes to granting awards. So just be careful and tend to ignore these if you see them on a bottle. Next bit we get to is the actual name, Chateau Labouré. Chateau, I suppose, conjures up pictures of big grand houses or whatever, but all chateau is basically means there's a property on the vineyard. And Chateau Labouré, because it says chateau on it, all the grapes will be originating, they go into the wine from that area. Next bit we come down to is Côte de Castillon, which is a region, and then below it immediately it's Appellation Côte de Castillon Contrôlée. First of all, French wine, they don't tend to have the grape varieties on the label, which makes it tricky, but basically once you know the broad areas like Bordeaux, Burgundy, the Rhone, then you'll know roughly what the grape varieties will be in there. So you do need to know the rough areas of France to know what's in the bottle, but that's what I'm here for, so just ask me and I'll tell you that basically because this is Bordeaux, it's mostly Merlot and Cabernet, maybe a little touch of Cabernet Franc. Then the Appellation Contrôlée is actually a level of quality control that's regulated in France, and the Appellation Contrôlée is the top level within France. So you have the top tier Appellation Contrôlée, the second tier down then we have Vin de Pays, which is wine of the country, and at the bottom tier we have Vin de Table, which is table wine. So if you see Appellation Contrôlée or AC, then that's the top rung, and it's a good guarantee of quality. Getting closer to the end now, we see the year, and this is obviously a vintage bottle, and the year is the year in which the grapes were harvested. So if you see that, it basically means that all the grapes were harvested in that year. So it's not if you don't see a year on the bottle, it means it's a blend of different vintages, and it may not be a particularly good wine. So a year on it is again a bit of a sign of quality. Alcohol level, if you're looking for rough gauges of alcohol level, between 12.5 and 13.5 is a safe level for, I suppose, reds, which will hopefully mean that the wine's balanced, and for a white wine around 11.5 to 12.5. Either side of that, then you might have a bit of an unbalanced wine if you're not sure of the producer, so those are generally good guidelines. That's the amount in the bottle. Some always prefer more, but that's your standard bottle. Numbers on a bottle tend to mean nothing unless there's an upper limit on it, so if it's 8,472 of 9,000, then it'll mean something, but otherwise that's just the number of the bottle rolled off the production line. And finally, sulfites. Every wine contains sulfites, whether they're naturally occurring in the grape skin themselves or added during the winemaking process. As a general guide, this has to be put on for legal reasons, because some people have allergic reactions to sulfites, and in certain instances that will kill you. But hopefully with smaller producers, they tend to add a lot less sulfites, because they tend to have a lot better quality of grapes in their bottle. So I'd like to think that a lot of our producers have very, very small amounts in their wine. And that's pretty much it. A very, very quick and simple way of going through a label, but hopefully it'll explain a little bit more, because they can be quite confusing. If you'd like me to show you the Italian ones and Spanish ones in the future, stick a wee line underneath the video here, and hopefully I'll see you in the weekend in the shop. Okay, cheers.